You're with Susan Graham Ryan on ABC North Queensland.
If you're a homeowner, you're probably already a bit giddy from the 7 rate rises the Reserve Bank has slammed you with last year and preparing yourself for the blows that are still to come this year. And if that's not bad enough, if you're in Brisbane, the value of your home is plummeting at the fastest rate in history, nearly 11% in just 7 months from June last year to now. That's the largest percentage drop on record, according to CoreLogic's Daily Home Value Index. And it's predicted to get even worse. But the picture looks a bit different in the regions. Luke Need is the director of Townsville-based real estate agency Need Property Group. Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Sus. How you going?
Great. Thank you very much for joining us. So we're seeing these value drops in Brisbane. Tell us what you're seeing in North Queensland.
North Queensland is proving to be a little bit different. In particular, Townsville, the market that we're in, we're continuing to see the market be quite resilient. We're finding that through many different factors, there's actually putting downward pressure on existing stock levels in Townsville. We're finding at the moment that quite truly demand is outstripping supply. So it's a vastly different story to what we're seeing out of the media outlets in the southern markets.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see such a different, a different situation a few thousand kilometres apart, albeit. Why are house prices going up here in the north but plummeting down south, do you think?
Yeah, well, what we're finding is that there's a couple of different factors that really come into it for us. What we're finding with Townsville at the moment is we've got a situation where there's a lot of projects in the pipeline, as we know, and we're talking about things like Hellgate Dam, we're talking about things like Singapore Defence Deal. So we're finding that migration to the region is continuing at a decent pace. And what that means is that we just simply don't have enough housing to supply to these people. What it also comes back to is affordability. What we enjoy in our region is incredibly great affordability for housing. We've had consistent growth over the last 3 years, but we haven't seen the growth like some of the southern markets have had. And I guess what we're seeing at the moment from the decline that you just spoke about in the Brisbane market, I guess it's one of those sort of, the impression is, or the term, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. I guess that is the truth, because we've seen some of those markets increase by 30%, sort of the COVID period. But obviously it's coming back at a rapid pace, where that isn't the case up here. And I think truly the affordability is probably keeping our market quite strong.
Yeah. Are things like interest rates, insurance, and those general cost of living pressures having an impact? What are you hearing from the front line when you're talking with your buyers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with interest rates and how much that has an effect on the psyche for the buyer, it really comes back to sort of what this costs out of my back pocket, out of my income every month. When we look at what it costs to get into a mortgage in the capital cities versus where we are here, you're talking in many cases half, sometimes even a third.
Yeah.
So when you take into account how much interest rates are affecting the confidence of the market or affecting the hip pocket, it is obviously hurting people out there, and we understand that, but it's not quite to the levels of what it would be hurting in those other markets. Touching on insurance just briefly, the insurance for our region is very high. I mean, most homeowners would realise that when they get their renewals every year, they're getting jabbed in the hip pocket, and of course you'd shop around and there's few suppliers that will actually insure a lot of property.
Yeah.
But what we do know is what's happening with the insurance at the moment. The 2021-22 ACCC Insurance Monitoring Report showed that we were about $2,370 on average was an insurance premium for a homeowner. That's about $1,000 higher than the national average.
Yeah.
Now, there are a couple of things that obviously are coming into play. We talk about the Northern Australian reinsurance pool. That is going to have a part to play in obviously bringing more competition to our market, but it definitely is hurting people at the ground level.
Yeah, and it's such a big impact, and we're hearing that that's sometimes why a lot of people have, if they've got rental properties, they're selling those off because it's just another huge, they're not making the money.
Yeah, that's right.
The UNSW housing need dashboard shows Townsville needs about 6,100 more houses. Is that realistic? Is that what you're seeing?
No. Look, we're not. As I mentioned at the start of our conversation here, we're seeing that demand is well and truly outstripping supply. We've got examples where on weekend open homes where we're seeing 30-plus groups through properties and multiple offers and good offers on these properties. And people aren't paying overs, but they're paying the right money, the intrinsic value for these homes. And the reason that is the case is because the downward pressure on existing stock, because there's simply no construction happening. The stuff that's being constructed now was probably 12 or 18 months in the build plan. And there are a lot of slabs around town, so they currently don't have people on them because they simply can't get the trades.
Yeah.
So we know that the latest data also shows that there's no real a relief from the cost of building. So we can't see where that immediacy is going to come from for more developers to release land and builders to start building spec homes for investors. Yeah. And a lot of those investors did punch out because of the cost of the region. And as a result of that, we have less rental properties.
Yeah. And that dramatic need, that this report also showed that we'd need 400 to 500 new dwellings per year to get to the appropriate stocks. And as you're saying, people aren't building unless they can really, really afford it, or it's been in the works for a long time.
Yeah, that's right. Like, look, it'd be really, really hard to find someone at the moment that would want to take on the cost of build with where it's at for a basic home. There are people still out there doing it, don't get me wrong. And there's obviously they're talking to builders about trying to find value in the market, but it's not happening at the rate that you need. You're sort of suggesting as to, and people are living in properties that are unsuitable for their circumstances, and we see that.
Yeah. Is there any other trends in the market locally that we might not be aware of, as a little journalist in this room in here?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what we do know is that, so just on Townsville-centric, obviously being an agent in Townsville, we got the finger on the pulse pretty tight. And what we know is that the latest CoreLogic regional market report showed that Townsville was actually the best performing regional market in the country for year-on-year sales. We were up 21.6%. So, I mean, 1 in 5 more properties than the year before. We're also seeing a little bit that's Kansas performing well and typically Mackay as well. So what were overinflated markets in some circumstances is due to COVID. We didn't quite see that up here. We're not a satellite city to to big cities. So although we saw growth, it's somewhat of a market correction. All predictions are, and whispers around the country, is that Townsville in particular will be seen as quite an attractive market, both in yields and also price growth in the coming years. So we're expecting things to be quite positive for the foreseeable future.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for your insights. Luke Need, the Director of Townsville-based real estate agency Need Property.